The arena thrummed like a living thing, a beast of steel and sweat roaring under the weight of thousands. The air hung heavy with anticipation, thick with the scent of spilled beer, hot metal, and the faint musk of adrenaline. Floodlights blazed down from the rafters, carving sharp shadows across the octagon, at the center a gleaming cage of polished bars that reflected the chaos like a warped mirror. Every seat was claimed, from the nosebleeds to the VIP rows, where the wealthy and the famous rubbed shoulders with die-hard fans. Voices collided in a deafening swell, shouts, chants, curses rattling the walls as banners waved high, unstoppable, Cage King. Phones flashed like lightning, capturing every second, every bead of sweat, every flicker of violence. Ringside, in the VIP section, sat Jason Statham. He wasn't the loudest presence there, no entourage trailing him, no oversized shades or garish jewelry, just a man in a sharp black jacket, open-collared shirt, and dark jeans, his frame compact but coiled, like a spring held under tension. One hand rested loosely on his knee, the other by his side, fingers still. His face was a mask, sharp, steady eyes locked on the cage, no smile, no twitch of excitement. He didn't clap when the crowd erupted. He didn't flinch when a fighter hit the mat. He simply watched, a quiet island in the storm of noise. Inside the cage, the night's main event was building to its brutal peak. The reigning star, a lean, tattooed fighter named Rex the Reaper Callahan, moved like a predator, fast, vicious, and unrelenting. At 28, he'd clawed his way up the ranks with a mix of raw talent and ruthless showmanship. His arms were inked with jagged skulls and coiled snakes, his grin a permanent taunt that dared you to hate him. He didn't just win fights, he owned them, turning every victory into a spectacle of flexes, shouts, and calculated arrogance. Across from him stood his opponent, a seasoned veteran named Cole "Iron" Maddox, a man in his late 30s with a face carved from years of punishment, scarred brows, a nose broken more times than he could count. Cole wasn't flashy. He didn't play to the cameras. His strength was quiet, forged in discipline and grit, the kind of fighter who let his fists do the talking. The bell rang, a sharp clang that sliced through the roar, and Rex exploded forward. His fists snapped like pistons, jab, cross, a low kick that thudded into Cole's thigh with a meaty smack. The veteran kept his guard high, circling, his boots scuffing the mat as he measured distance. He'd seen brash kids like Rex before, hotshots, who burned bright and faded fast, but tonight felt different. Rex didn't give him space to breathe, pressing in with a flurry of strikes, each one crisp, each one meant to punish. The crowd fed off it, a tidal wave of noise crashing over the cage. Some screamed Rex's name, Reaper. Reaper, their voices raw with excitement. Others watched in tense silence, hands clenched, uneasy with the younger man's relentless pace. Halfway through the round, Rex's grin broke through, sharp and mocking. "That all you got, old man?" he snarled, loud enough for the front rows to catch it over the din. Cole fired back a heavy counterhook that grazed Rex's jaw, but the younger fighter slipped away, laughing, his feet dancing on the mat. "Too slow," he shouted, tossing a quick jab to punctuate it. The crowd split, some laughed with him, feeding his bravado. Others murmured, shifting in their seats, torn between admiration and discomfort. Then the tide turned. Rex feinted, left, snapped a kick to Cole's ribs that drew a grunt, and followed with a vicious right cross. The punch landed like a hammer, a crack that echoed through the arena. Cole's head snapped back, eyes glazing, and Rex pounced a tight uppercut, slammed into the veteran's jaw, sending him crashing to the mat. The impact reverberated, a dull thud that silenced half the stands. The referee dove in, arms waving, shouting for space, but Rex was already turning away, arms flung high, strutting like a king. Medics swarmed Cole, kneeling beside him, their voices sharp and urgent. "Can you hear me? Look at me." As they checked his pulse, his breathing. He blinked slowly, disoriented, one hand twitching against the canvas. The crowd erupted, a chaotic mix of cheers and gasps. Rex leapt onto the cage's edge, pounding his chest, sweat dripping from his brow as he roared, "Who's next? Who's got the guts to step up?" His voice boomed over the speakers, amplified by the mic clipped to his shorts. Some fans screamed wildly, thrilled by the brutality, waving signs and pumping fists. Others exchanged uneasy glances, eyes darting between the fallen vet and the preening victor. Commentators scrambled to keep up, their voices crackling over the speakers, and there it is, folks. Rex Callahan with another devastating finish. Rex grabbed a handheld mic from the announcer, still breathing heavy, grin feral. "This is my hoe. Use," he shouted, pacing the cage, his boots thudding against the mat. "Nobody touches me. Nobody's got what it takes." He flexed for the cameras, veins bulging under his ink skin, playing to the crowd like a rock star. The flashes popped faster, phones raised high, streaming every second to the world beyond the arena. Then his eyes flicked to the front row. Jason Statham sat there, unmoved, his piercing gaze cutting through the madness like a blade. Rex froze for a split second, then the grin widened, predatory. He pointed the mic straight at Jason. "Hey, Statham. I see you down there, all quiet, all cool. What's it gonna be, huh? You think you're tough in those movies punching stunt guys, driving fast cars? Step up, man, let's see if you're real." A ripple of gasps spread through the stands. A wildfire of shock and excitement. Phones swung toward Jason, flashes exploding like gunfire. Some fans laughed, sharp and nervous. Others started chanting, "Jason, Jason." Their voices rising in a messy, swelling wave. Rex bounced on his heels, feeding off it, tossing the mic aside with a flourish. "Come on, action hero, show me something," he taunted, throwing mock jabs at the air, his laughter echoing over the speakers. For a long moment, Jason didn't move. The arena held its breath, the chants growing louder, the tension coiling tight as a wire. Every camera zoomed in, every eye locked on him. Then, slowly, deliberately, he stood. No rush, no drama, just a man rising with the weight of quiet control. He shrugged off his jacket, handing it to a stunned attendant. Without breaking eye contact with Rex, the crowd detonated. A tidal wave of noise crashing over the stand, screams, cheers, the pounding of feet against metal bleachers. Jason took one measured step toward the cage, his boots silent against the concrete floor, and the air seemed to shift, heavy with the promise of something unstoppable. The cameras tracked him, commentators stumbling over their words. Is this happening? Jason Statham stepping into the cage. As security staff parted like water, unsure whether to stop him or let him through. Rex laughed again, loud and sharp, but there was a flicker in his eyes, something unsteady, something he couldn't quite mask. Jason climbed into the cage, no fanfare, no posing. He rolled his shoulders once, stance loose, but grounded, hands half raised. The arena went quiet, a breathless hush, every eye locked on the two men standing face to face. Rex circled, smirking, throwing mock punches at the air. "What's the plan, Statham?" "Gonna throw some movie punches, maybe a spinning kick for the cameras." His voice dripped with mockery, loud enough to carry over the speakers. Jason said nothing. His gaze stayed steady, unblinking, tracking every twitch of Rex's body, every shift of his weight. The younger fighter lunged a quick jab, testing the waters, fast and sharp. Jason slipped it effortlessly, stepping aside like he'd seen it coming a mile away. Rex swung again, harder, a wild hook aimed at Jason's jaw. Jason ducked, smooth as silk, and countered with a single, precise jab to Rex's chest. It wasn't flashy, but it landed with a thud that made Rex stagger, his breath hitching. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of air. Rex's grin faltered, his eyes narrowing. He charged again, fists flying left, right, a spinning kick for flair, his boots scuffing the mat. Jason moved like a ghost, dodging, deflecting, each motion economical, deliberate. A sharp elbow caught Rex's arm mid-swing, forcing a wince. The younger man's pace grew frantic, sloppy, his taunts replaced by heavy breathing. Jason waited, patient, then struck a clean, brutal right cross that snapped Rex's head back. The fighter stumbled, eyes wide, and Jason followed with a low kick to the knee, dropping him to one leg. The arena exploded. Rex scrambled up, fury replacing swagger, and threw himself at Jason, a hail of desperate punches, wild, uncoordinated, fueled by rage. Jason sidestepped, caught Rex's wrist mid-strike, and twisted hard. Rex yelped, off balance, and Jason drove a knee into his midsection. The air rushed out of him in a ragged gasp, and a final, surgical uppercut sent Rex sprawling to the mat, dazed and blinking under the blinding lights. Silence, then chaos chants of Jason. Jason. thundered through the stadium, fans leaping to their feet, phones flashing like a storm. Jason stood over Rex for a moment, expression still unreadable, then turned away. No raised fists, no victory lap. He walked to the cage gate, calm as he'd entered, and stepped out. Medex rushed to Rex, who groaned, rolling to his side, pride shattered as much as his jaw. The cameras zoomed in, catching every second the disheveled hair, the stunned expression, the shift from arrogance to disbelief. Jason retrieved his jacket, slipping it on with the same quiet control. The crowd surged toward the railings, screaming his name, but he didn't look back. He nodded once to the VIP row where a few familiar faces clapped, stunned and headed for the tunnel. Behind him, the arena buzzed, clips already flooding the internet. Jason Statham KOs him and they star in real-life showdown. Rex sat slumped in his corner, towel over his head, staring at the mat, the mic nowhere in sight. But the night wasn't over. Backstage, the energy shifted. The tunnel was a narrow corridor of concrete and flickering lights, lined with crew members, security, and a handful of reporters who'd slipped past the barriers. Jason walked through it, his pace steady, boots echoing faintly against the floor. A young journalist, barely out of her 20s, pushed forward, mic trembling in her hand. "Mr. Statham, Jason, what was that? Did you plan to fight tonight?" Her voice was high, eager, cutting through the murmurs of the crew. Jason paused, just for a second, turning his head slightly. His eyes met her sharp, unreadable and he gave a small, almost imperceptible shrug. "Kid asked for it," he said, voice low, gravelly, the kind that carried weight without trying. Then he kept walking, leaving her blinking, scribbling furiously on her notepad. Outside the tunnel, the arena's roar still echoed, but a new sound joined its sirens. Two police cruisers rolled up to the back entrance, lights flashing, cutting through the night. A pair of officers stepped out, radios crackling, their faces set in grim lines. Word had spread fast, too fast. The fight hadn't been sanctioned, hadn't been planned. Rex's taunts had pulled Jason in, but the promoters weren't happy. And neither was the law. A burly officer approached the security team, his voice sharp. "Where's Statham? We need to talk to him, now." Inside, Jason had reached a small holding area, a cramped room with a metal bench, a water cooler, and a single flickering bulb. He sat, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor, the jacket draped beside him. The door swung open, and a man in a slick suit stormed in. Vince Delgado, the event's promoter, his face red with fury. "What the hell was that, Statham?" he barked, pacing the small space. "You just knocked out my main draw. You think this is a movie set? We've got cops out there, lawyers breathing down my neck. This wasn't scripted." Jason didn't look up. "He called me out," he said simply, voice flat. "I answered." Vince threw his hands up, exasperated. "Answered? You flattened him. You know how much money I've got riding on that kid. He's the face of this circuit, arrogant. Yeah, but he sells tickets. And you just made him look like a punk in front of 20,000 people." Jason finally lifted his eyes, steady, unflinching. He made himself look like a punk. "I just finished the job." Vince stopped pacing, mouth open, then shut it with a snap. He ran a hand through his thinning hair, muttering curses under his breath. "You're lucky I don't see you," he said, but the threat sounded hollow. He knew the crowd's reaction, knew the footage going viral was worth more than any lawsuit. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Moments later, the officers stepped in. The taller one, a grizzled man with a buzz cut, spoke first. "Mr. Statham, we've got a situation. Unsanctioned fight, potential assault charges. You're gonna need to come with us, answer some questions." Jason stood, adjusting his jacket with that same calm precision. "Fair enough," he said. No trace of worrying in his voice. He followed them out, hands loose by his sides, as if he were walking to grab a coffee, not heading into a police station. Back in the arena, Rex was on his feet, unsteady, a medic holding an ice pack to his jaw. The crowd had thinned, but the die-hards lingered, still buzzing, still chanting Jason's name. Rex glared at the mat, his shoulders slumped, the towel draped over his neck, soaked with sweat. His corner man, a wiry guy named Tony, crouched beside him, voice low. "You okay, kid?" That was unexpected. Rex didn't answer. He rubbed his jaw, wincing, then spat into a bucket. "He's not even a fighter," he muttered, voice thick with disbelief. "He's a damn actor." Tony shrugged, glancing toward the tunnel where Jason had disappeared. "Actor or not, he's got hands, and you pushed him." Rex's eyes narrowed, a flicker of anger cutting through the haze. "I'll get him back," he said, barely audible. "Next time, he's mine." Tony didn't reply, just handed him a water bottle and let the silence settle. The kid's pride was bruised worse than his face, and that was saying something. Outside, the night air hit Jason like a slap, cool, crisp, a stark contrast to the stifling heat of the arena. The cruisers idled, exhaust curling into the dark. He slid into the back seat of one, the door shutting with a heavy thunk. The officers exchanged a glance, but said nothing as they pulled away, the red and blue lights painting the street in eerie flashes. The ride was short, the station a squat brick building a few blocks away. Inside, it smelled of burnt coffee and disinfectant. They led Jason to a small room, gray walls, a metal table, a one-way mirror. He sat, posture relaxed, as the buzz-cut officer leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "So," the cop started, "you want to tell us why you stepped into that cage and laid out a pro fighter?" Jason leaned back, one hand resting on the table. "He challenged me." "I didn't start it." The officer raised an eyebrow. "Didn't start it. Hawk looked pretty finished when you walked away." Jason shrugged, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth, the first crack in his calm all night. "He wanted to see if I was real. I showed him." The second officer, younger, scribbled notes, stifling a grin. "You know this could be a mess, right? Assault. Public disturbance. Promoters are pissed. Let them be," Jason said, voice steady. "I didn't throw the first punch." The cops exchanged another look. The older one sighed, rubbing his temples. "All right. We'll take your statement, but don't leave town." "This ain't over." Jason nodded, unfazed. An hour later, after signing a few forms, he walked out into the night, the station door swinging shut behind him. The street was quiet now, the distant hum of the city the only sound. He pulled his jacket tighter, breath fogging in the cool air, and started walking. No cameras, no crowd, just a man blending into the shadows. Back at the arena, the cleanup crew swept the stands, picking up crushed cups and torn banners. The cage stood empty, the lights dimmed, but the echo of the night lingered. Social media was ablaze, clips of Jason's knockout racked up millions of views, captions screaming, "Statham destroys MMA star. Hollywood tough guy proves it." Rex's fans tried to rally, posting excuses he was tired. It wasn't fair, but the tide had turned. The world had seen what happened when noise met substance. Rex sat alone in the locker room, the ice pack melting against his jaw. He stared at his reflection in a cracked mirror, swollen cheek, bruised pride. The bravado was gone, replaced by something quieter, something raw. He'd walked into that cage thinking he owned it. Jason Statham had shown him otherwise, and Jason, he didn't need the headlines, didn't need the chance. He'd stepped in, settled it, and walked away. Strength doesn't shout, it strikes. And tonight, in front of thousands, he'd proven it without saying a word.